Hello ladies and gentlemen. In today's video, I'm going to be explaining my top 3 favorite inversion for value gap setups. Basically my 3 favorite kind of setups that really have a high win rate. So we're going to get started on the first one, right? I have my 3 pulled up. The first one I like to look at, which is probably my most favorite in terms of an inversion for value gap setup, is a smart money reversal. So anytime price comes into some higher time frame PD array or like a 4-hour gap, and we're sweeping out a low, right, price becomes neutral in terms of order flow. So here price sweeps out a low, and we can see we have this new week opening gap to the left. Now I like to use new week opening gaps like a fair value gap, right? So I expect it to be filled, respected, and then we can see continuation plays off of that. So here price taps into that new week opening gap to the left, right? We sweep out a low, so we have our liquidity sweep, and we have good liquidity to target. Right here, we have this unbalanced 5-minute, right? Unmitigated 5-minute for value gap here as a first target, where price could go, where we could reach into price, then we can go break even on our setup. And we also had a low resistance liquidity to the upside, right? So this is a really good setup, and what makes it a lot cleaner, right? So when we get that inversion, which we get it on this candle, we pair this with an order block, right? So I'm entering in here. Stop's gonna be below the low here, right? And when I enter, you can see that next candle closes above these series of up close candles. This is creating my breaker, as well as we're getting a CISD here. This confirms to me that smart money reversal, and when you pair up the inversion for value gap, right, when you see this candle displacing, now I know I want to hold runners, right? This is because this is showing me the smart money reversal, right? We're getting that pattern, the order block here, we're getting a breaker block here, and we're getting a CISD. And you can see you could have held this setup all the way to the highs and running all that low resistance liquidity. So that's my first favorite setup, right? Basically price tapping into a higher time frame PD array, sweeping out a low, getting that delivery, and getting a nice smart money reversal with usually an unmitigated gap above the target, like an unmitigated 5-minute or 15-minute is a really good first target for a break even. So yeah, so my next setup that I really like really like to trade are confirmation setups. You know, as iFVG traders, we really like to take 2 types of setups, which is that reversal and then a confirmation / like continuation setup. So in this scenario here, right, price comes down, sweeps out a low inside of a fair value gap, right? If we go to the higher time frame here, if we go to the 15-minute, you can see price is rebalancing this 15-minute. Now you might be wondering, well, we did not hit 50% of this range. Now that is true, but in live time here, we did leave a data high at 10 a.m. as well as ES went to its 50%. So I was willing to look for a setup here, and taking this long, even though it's in premium of the range, is completely fine, because you can see the reaction to that 15-minute, basically that IO Fed reaction into that 15-minute, right? As well as ES rebalancing its 50%. So when you want to look for confirmation setup, you want price to usually have a liquidity sweep, some low in a gap, and some rebalance. So we sweep out this 1-minute low, we rebalance this 1-minute for value gap, and we get a 30-second inversion with momentum, right? Because you want to be taking the highest time frame, most obvious inversion for value gap with momentum. If the close has no momentum and the momentum is weak, right, in the candles, then you want to wait for every time frame to close. But here the 30-second is the most obvious, right? If you look at the 1-minute, you don't really have a 1-minute, and then 2-minute, obviously, so on. We don't really have a 2-minute here. So 30-second is the most obvious. You'd enter here, right? And we had a data high above at 10 a.m. So right here we had a data high, and obviously price reaches up to that point, securing your profit, right? So confirmation setup, continuation setup, basically the same thing. Rebalance price, look for a good draw on liquidity, right? You want to be taking continuation setups if they have a good draw on liquidity. If the draw on liquidity is bad, most likely you do not want to take that continuation setup. Here, especially in this example, we had buy side still above, right? If we go back here, I can show you we still had this high inside of this fair value gap to target. So this was still okay to take. Now, if we have swept this high, right? Let's say price came up here, swept the high here, rejected, and there was no data high above. Taking this confirmation setup is a little bit more risky because the drawn liquidity has been taken and the drawn liquidity is not as A+. But because the drawn liquidity is still good, remember, drawn liquidity is the #1 thing. Because the drawn liquidity is still good enough, I am willing to take this setup. Okay, so we go to the third. This is a really classic iFVG, basically that Judas swing setup with AMD. So this can happen usually at either open or at 10 a.m. So I'll show you the 10 a.m. reversal. Yeah, 10 a.m. AMD reversal. So as you guys know, AMD stands for accumulation, manipulation, distribution, right? So here, before 10 a.m., and 10 a.m. is a key reversal time. If we think about our macro times, right, we have 9:50 to 10:10, 10:50 to 11:10, and so on, right? 10 a.m. is a key reversal time, right? Because that's when we put in that 4-hour candle. You can see price accumulates before 10 a.m. So we want price to accumulate before 10 a.m. and then manipulate on one side of the direction. Now, if we look at draws and liquidity, if we look to the downside, we can see we have a lot more cleaner draw and liquidity to the downside than to the upside. The upside just has this standard swing highs buy side. But if we look to the left and to the downside, we have LRLR here, right? This line we have multiple touches on. This is low resistance liquidity. So I want to see price run through all this LRLR, right? So price will accumulate before 10 a.m. We will Judas swing, right? Fake out. So we fake move up, and the most important thing here is when we have that Judas swing, when we have that fake move, we want price to be manipulating into some type of PD array, right? Into some type of high or fair value gap. Here, price sweeps out, I think it was a 2-minute. Yeah, price sweeps out this high in this 2-minute right here. And we respect what? We respect this BPR. We respect that gap. So there we have delivery and we have a sweep, making this iFVG setup A+. Now, if we look closely here, price does not invert the candle, invert the fair value gap on that candle, so you would not enter there. Now there's two ways to go about this setup. With this much momentum, you can 100% just take this right here. But what I waited for a little bit more confirmation, right, just in case this significant gap, right, this gap is held price, this gap's holding order flow right here because it sent price to a higher high. I waited for this gap to break, which would also put in again, if we go back to here, smart money reversal, right? Smart money reversal here, I like this one better because it taps into a higher time frame PD array, and it's like higher time frame swing lows getting taken out. Here we just have a 2-minute high, but when this gap breaks right here, you can see, I'll delete this. When we break this gap, we get that same formation, right? We get that breaker block right here, and we get a CISD, change of state of delivery. So you have a CISD at this low, right? CISD at the low, and then we have that breaker, right? Breaker on that box, and then here we have that iFVG, right? iFVG right here. So inversion for value gap plus breaker plus CISD, right? And we close right there. So I can take my position here. My stop would be, right? If I want to include all the inception gaps, the stop's going to be pretty big, but it is 1-to-1 here. So what I'd probably do is not have a hard stop here. I would have a little bit of a looser stop, because if price is really going to start moving down here, right off the 10 a.m. AMD, right, reversal, I would not expect this breaker plus fair value gap to get broken. So I'd probably have my stop right around here. So I have my stop here, right? I'll enter this trade, market enter, and I'll target this low. And you can see price now hits our break even, which is the next point of liquidity, right? Internal liquidity. Either liquidity or inefficiency you want to go break even at. So there I go break even as order flow goes neutral there. And now I just want to see prices start running this LRLR. You can hold runners here, right? Because if we have all this low resistance liquidity, I can hold runners for all of this. I can scale first at that low. Okay, I'll scale most there and leave the rest for this low. And you can see price takes that out very, very cleanly. So those are my top 3 most favorite setups, right? We have the smart money reversal, we have the confirmation setup targeting good draw on liquidity, right? This setup's only good if we still have a good draw on liquidity in the market. And my third and final setup is that Judah swing either off open, right? We can get the same thing, right? For example, if pre-market accumulates, I would expect market open to manipulate and then distribute. And if pre-market manipulated, right? If we already accumulated and manipulated in pre-market, then I would expect 930 to distribute. So yeah, these are my top 3 favorite setups. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this video, and please like and subscribe.